Hey everybody, before you listen to the show, two quick things. I hope you and your loved ones are safe, happy, and healthy. Secondly, stop right now. If you haven't already, check out our free to access conveyancing service for mortgage brokers and estate agents. Mortgage brokers must check out our free to access services at themortgagebrokerclub.co.uk, including over 25 categories of mortgage broker tools. Stay well, and I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the MLC show for property professionals. I am your host, Sean Rogers, and I am delighted to be joined on today's show by David Miles, founder of the PPC machine. David, how are you? How has your 2020 been for you?
Hi, Sean. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, 2020 for a year where nothing's happened, or no one's gone anywhere. It's gone very quickly, I think. But yeah, overall, I think it's been a good year for me on the whole. Despite how it maybe looked like it was going to turn out in March, it's turned out okay.
Good, I'm pleased to hear it. And tell us a bit about your career before you founded the PPC machine. What were your career and your experiences up to that point?
Well, I think career is a strong word, but basically, I started my career in IT consultancy, doing sort of infrastructure projects for big companies like Shell and Diageo and those kind of people. And then I sort of was getting fed up with doing all that, and my IFA of the time convinced me it'd be a really good idea to buy half his business and go into business with him. So I ended up spending a couple of years in financial services, never actually as a qualified broker or advisor, but basically running the operational side of things and the marketing. And that's where I first learned, through necessity, basically, how to market a business online. This is early 2000s. The internet's just starting to become a widely adopted thing. So that's why I kind of learned all that. And then when I came out of that, I moved into, well, first of all, into doing lead generation, selling leads to financial services businesses, and kind of then developed that into a more general purpose digital marketing agency. Grew that over the years, and went in with a couple of other guys to expand it further. And about 5 or 6 years ago, sold my share in that. And since then, I've worked. That's when I founded the PPC machine, to be just me as a one-man band consultant. And I decided, obviously, because it's just me, I can't work with everyone, that I would niche into a particular area. And it kind of made sense that area was financial services, because that's where my digital marketing experience has started off. It's where I knew I could generate good results. And obviously, I understand the industry a reasonable amount, having been immersed in it for those couple of years. I've also done a couple of non-exec director roles over the last few years as well, including on the board of an insurance brokerage. So yeah, it all kind of tied together like that.
And what have you made of the property sector and the market in 2020? Any surprises?
Yeah, a few surprises. I think it's maybe naively, it surprised me quite how much things ground to a halt as a result of, well, not as a result of lockdown itself, but once we came out of the initial lockdown and the property market reopened, it surprised me how that showed up so much inefficiency in the way that the lending process works, the conveyancing process, and the fact that most small businesses I know obviously have adapted quite well to suddenly working from home, but those sort of larger organizations like lenders, local councils, whatever, seem to have been really hit by actually not being in the same office and being able to talk to each other. It's just slowed everything down massively. So that was quite surprising. And I was quite surprised by the stamp duty holiday, really, as well. And I'd be interested to see how that pans out over the next couple of months, as obviously everyone's panicking to get in before this deadline that's been put there.
Yeah, it's funny because of my background. Yeah, I have no surprises about the stamp duty holiday, because I'm not sure. Look, I've only been under FCA regulation for a very short period of time, so I can't really comment on that regulator and that kind of thing. But certainly from a government point of view, in legal services, I went through three in like a couple of enormous changes, like not even like completely, not even business, like entire sector revolutionary changes. And they came in with literally very little notice at all. The wording being absolutely last minute, with no one having a clue what was going on. And everyone with a brain was like, okay, they're going to have to do something here to make this, whether that be by a certain point in time, you're clear, these kind of things. And it was just an absolute joke. So it's no surprise to me, a little bit of the mess that has been created by them in that, because for me, it's dead easy. You'd have just brought it in and said, I don't know, I'm by, if these certain triggers happen, for instance, like exchange of contracts or something, whatever it be, by a certain day, or whatever list of events you want, if they're all done by, hypothetically, the last day of February, or even you could go by the 31st of March, we'll honour the stamp duty holiday. Then everyone would know where they stand, and it would take a little bit of pressure off everyone. Like you say as well, because I've lived through them sort of things and other challenges, it's interesting that obviously the small businesses are much more agile, more dynamic, able to react to them kind of things. Like you say, it's interesting that, as you could do an entire afternoon on this, let alone a show. But I think it's interesting that the bigger businesses, you look at lenders, you look at solicitors in particular, it's interesting, they will not innovate or even keep up with other sectors or look at what other people are doing unless they're absolutely forced to. And I have a ton of sympathy for them, because a lot of them, especially at board level, they're only there for a short time. So they're not that arsed about what this looks like 5 years down the line. As far as they're concerned, they're out. So they're just in a firefight, and also the way they've been educated and all them kind of things. So it doesn't surprise me that they've struggled in the way that they've struggled, because I know myself, I've been I've been David and I've been Goliath. Yeah, and it's a lot more fun, I think, being David, to be fair, and you can move a lot more quicker and slicker. I think when you're Goliath, so to speak, the problem you get, I think, is a minute becomes an hour becomes a day becomes a week, and you're just in firefighting mode completely, and you never take that step back to look at a blank piece of paper and go, right, actually, what would make a massive change to the business? So, those kind of things, really. And then you never make the changes, because all the things, like you said, I suppose you're alluding to, a lot of the things that have happened this year shouldn't have had an impact. Should they really? Like, if you think about big banks and big law firms, you think, well, why wouldn't you be digitally ready when the technology's there? Why wouldn't you be able to give people flexible working hours and work from home? We're in 2020, so yeah.
I think the thing with it is, a lot of the time, a lot of the barriers with those kind of things have been people have just assumed it wouldn't work. I mean, look at all the people who've been told for years, oh no, you can't possibly work from home, you can't do your job without being in the office 9 to 5 every day. And then suddenly, when the brown stuff hits the fan, it's like, oh, actually, yeah, you can do your job at home perfectly well. But without that catalyst of people being forced into it, no one would ever have had the foresight to even countenance trying it.
Has there been any significant increase in clients looking for online solutions for a mortgage or remortgage?
Well, obviously, my knowledge of this is kind of secondhand, because obviously I hear it from the brokers. But I mean, what the impression I'm getting from what I'm being told by by clients of mine and by other brokers that I talk to is, definitely, again, people who previously would have thought that you can't possibly apply for a mortgage or get mortgage advice without sitting down and eyeballing someone, obviously are now quite happy to do everything remotely, not necessarily do the whole thing online, as in, don't have any human involvement, but they're far happier to to do all the meetings with the broker over the phone or on Zoom or whatever. I think that's changed the unique selling point, I think, for quite a lot of mortgage brokers, because traditionally, I think a lot of them have sold themselves on the basis of, well, I'm your local broker, so my USP is you can come and see me easily and blah, 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 blah. Well, of course, now if people don't actually want to come and see you, well, they either don't want to because they don't want to catch something, or they're not that fussed because they've got used to not seeing people, then suddenly their unique selling point goes out the window. So I think that has had an impact for quite a few people.
And have you seen any significant changes during the course of the year to the cost of online advertising, specifically things like Google pay-per-click as an example? I mean, if you pretend that you don't know what that is, and you're just having a debate at lunchtime in a conference or something, I think you could make a case for saying, oh, well, I think the cost of the advertising could well have gone up because, as you say, people aren't able to go and see their local mortgage broker. They're not able to just walk in to see their local estate agent and so forth. So they're going to go online, which means more competition, which means it's potentially going to cost more money. On the other hand, if looking at the conveyancing logjam and everything else in the industry, I could make a case for actually going cheaper potentially. Depending on where you view supply and demand. What have you seen over the course of the last 12 months? Is it steady? Has it increased? Has it decreased?
From what I've seen, and it's always difficult to judge these over a relatively short period like that, but I haven't seen significant changes. If I think if I were to look at the average cost per click that clients of mine were paying on Google Ads, for example, this time last year compared to now, it's there or thereabouts the same. And I suppose that's the reason, I guess it's tied in with what you're saying there, is that at the end of the day, Google Ads and all those other sort of PPC systems, it's an auction system. So, the price is set ultimately through supply and demand and through what people are willing to bid. So, the cost per click only goes up if the advertisers are pushing their bids up and up. So, if they're not doing that because they're busy enough as it is, then that means the prices aren't going to be pushed up. And I think, the way to sum up the mortgage market, certainly in the last, where are we now? The last sort of 4 or 5 months, since about July, August kind of time, is that there's actually no shortage of demand, brought on partly by the stamp duty holiday, and I think partly by the pent-up demand that was created when the market was shut for that period of time. So there's no shortage of demand. What there is the shortage of supply. Obviously, I know the lenders have got a bit better now, but if you think back a few months when, if you wanted a mortgage from like HSBC or whatever, your broker had to be on the phone or on the laptop at 8 in the morning in a queue, and if they didn't get it within half an hour, that was it till the next day. There's not a shortage. There's a shortage of supply, not demand. So I think because of that, the amounts people are bidding has not rushed up hugely, and therefore the costs have stayed fairly steady.
And in your business, what's the most common problem or query that you have to solve when clients first contact you, when they first start engaging you?
Interesting, because obviously they come to me at different stages. Like some of them, are just literally starting out, either just starting out in the industry or have just taken that leap from working from someone else to being self-employed. Others have been going a bit longer, and they maybe tried out running some Google Ads and it's not working. But I think the thing they all have in common probably is they don't have a clear marketing message, and they don't have a clear idea of exactly who they're targeting as potential clients, and they don't have a clear idea what their value proposition is. And the thing I always end up saying to these guys, mortgage brokers, and the same with financial advisors as well, and insurance brokers, at the end of the day, as a mortgage broker, I know obviously there's restricted panel and there's whole of market, but essentially you're all selling the same products from the same lenders. So I can get exactly the same mortgage from you, broker X, as I can from broker Y. So why should I choose one broker over the other? And if you ask most mortgage brokers that, they don't really have an answer, other than sometimes the thing, well, I'm the local guy to this area. But as we just talked about, that's becoming less significant. So normally the first thing I have to do with the clients I work with is, even if they want to start advertising on Google, for example, right away, I often find myself having to rein them back from that and saying, right, before you do that, we need to be very clear on exactly who you're targeting, what your niche is. Don't try and sell any mortgage to anybody. Have a clear niche, because then that sets you out as a specialist and gives you a differentiation straight away. If you're the mortgage broker who specializes in mortgages for people who work in the NHS, for example, that immediately sets you apart from most of the other 40-odd thousand brokers out there. And also make sure you have a clear value proposition that states, why you are the right broker to go to for that ideal target client. And then once you're clear on that, then you can do things like make sure that comes across clearly on your website and your landing pages. And you can also then run your Google Ads or any other marketing far more effectively, because you know exactly who it is you're trying to get to. And and so you've got a clearer idea. And also, going back to what we said about costs of online advertising, generally, if you find a niche and go after a specific audience, your cost per click on things like Google will be lower than if you try and appear top of Google for a general term like mortgage broker or something like that. So yeah, I think my biggest challenge normally is helping them actually work out what they're trying to achieve and what their marketing message should be. Right, and then we move on to the mechanics of, right, how do we find those people? And often how we find them is the easier bit than working out who we want and what the offering is.
And over the last couple of years, have you had to change strategy at all? Because I know a lot of this is about timing. People who, maybe you go back 15 years, people will be looking at email newsletters with incredibly high open rates. You then go through a time where Google pay-per-click, not many people would have been using it. So prices will be on the absolute floor for even the main sort of keyword search terms. And then over time, human behavior, where attention goes, all this kind of thing changes. In this particular sector, has it been quite stable in terms of, you're analyzing strategies and keeping up with the trends and consumer behavior, I suppose? Have there been changes that you've had to change strategy on, or have things been fairly stable over the last couple of years, and kind of what worked for you and your teams is still working now?
Are you talking about from the point of view of the strategy for the clients I'm helping, or my strategy to market my business?
Well, I suppose both really, but in the main for your clients. So for financial services professionals,
Yeah,
as an example,
I
have you
think
seen changes in consumer behavior which have meant you've had to change, maybe whether it be the kind of keywords that you're using? Have you seen dramatic increases in certain keywords, so you've had to get more creative, if you like, or have you had to make changes to how you actually then convert the client? So the first bit of actually getting the click worked, but actually just consumer behavior meant you needed to change and give different advice. Have you seen any changes in that at all, or are things fairly steady?
Yeah, I think the big changes are perhaps over a slightly longer period than just the last 12 months. But you mentioned email there, actually, and funny enough, email marketing actually is still really, really powerful. But I think there's stats from within the last year or so that show that for every pound you spend on email marketing, you get 32 pounds something back. So it still does work. But that ties in with one of the things I have seen change. And if I go back to when I was first doing this kind of thing, advertising online for people wanting mortgages and stuff in the 2000s, you could be relatively basic with it. You could advertise, you could run the ad, you could get the click, and someone who came to your site would basically fill in an inquiry form without you having to make too much effort. I think the thing that's changed over the years is people have become far more savvy, far more cautious about giving away their details. They'll look around more before they fill in an inquiry, even something free, like fill in this form for free mortgage quotes. They won't just do that. You've got to actually sell yourself a lot more beforehand. So one of the big things I've found has changed is it's increasingly important for mortgage brokers and others, but mortgage brokers obviously who we're talking about, to start building relationships with people online before they go for the sale or go for the consultation. And so increasingly I find you need to be driving people to a website and not expecting them necessarily to make an inquiry straight away, but having something else they can do, download some kind of free guide or something like that, which will get them onto a mailing list where you can then start nurturing them through email and building that relationship with them. So as at the point when they are then ready to do something, they automatically come back to you because they start to feel they've got to know you a bit already. And I suppose that's been accelerated a bit over the last 12 months because their brokers are out and about less. They're not meeting people at face-to-face networking events and things. So the opportunities for that kind of nurture are happening less in the physical world. And so I think that's made it increasingly important that you have nurture systems in place in your online presence, and don't expect, basically, there's a quote from someone that I put in the inside cover of my book about mortgage lead generation, which says, I'm paraphrasing, but it basically says that instead of viewing lead generation as a one-night stand, we need to view it as a long-term relationship. And I think that's the shift that a lot of brokers are still struggling to get their head around.
And tell us a bit about how you help, you help financial services professionals, but mortgage brokers. How how do you help them, David? What are their needs that you meet?
What I'm focused on is helping them to develop a predictable pipeline of new business or new leads. So as they get off that kind of feast and famine cycle, and they can stop stressing about where the next client's coming from. And that involves, and I do that in two ways: either working one-to-one with clients, only a small number at a time because there's only me in the business, but I also have a membership program that brokers can join where we do group coaching calls, and there's lots of online resources to help them do all this stuff themselves. But the process is the same in both. It's about, first of all, getting your marketing fundamentals in place. So I help them work out those things we just talked about, like what area they're going to niche into, what their value proposition is, etc. Then the other big thing that I end up doing, although my specialism is in Google Ads, there's quite a lot of stuff you have to do before you get to that point. So those fundamentals are the first bit. The second phase is normally around helping them create landing pages on their website, which are actually going to convert visitors into leads, because most mortgage brokers' websites, in common with most professional services websites, are okay as kind of sales brochures that you might refer someone to after they've met you, but they're not designed for turning cold traffic into warm leads. So I help them create those kind of pages. There's a lot of psychology behind that, about, you know, things you can do on a page to make it more persuasive and get people to take the action that you want them to take. I help them create those kind of downloadable guides and email nurture systems that we just talked about. And then once all that's in place, then I set up and run Google Ads campaigns for them. Sometimes we couple that with advertising on Bing as well, because that's often an untapped source of good quality traffic. Or back it up with advertising on Facebook as well. So really, for the clients I'm working one-to-one with, I describe it as I am their outsourced digital marketing manager, basically. And I handle all that stuff, either obviously doing some bits of it myself, and other bits I'm working with external suppliers to project manage the whole thing and bring it together. And of course, for those who don't want to work one-to-one or can't afford to, then I provide all the same kind of support through the group coaching program.
So, mortgage brokers listening to this or wanting to reach out, what's the journey like? What can they expect? So, they however they want to contact you via social media, website, email, whatever. What can you advise them in terms of their expectations, both in terms of the practical journey from, first engaging with you, and what those sort of conversations are like, and then also what should their expectations be in terms of not just results, but in terms of what you think the relationship looks like in the short and long term?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would say, there's no requirement for any mortgage broker to give me any money to get advice from me initially. I have loads and loads of free resources on my website. There's loads of articles on there around marketing a mortgage business. There's lots of free guides people can download. I've got a members only Facebook group for mortgage brokers and financial advisors who want to improve their marketing and lead generation. They can join that, and I do fortnightly Facebook lives in there where I do little training sessions on all the kinds of things we just talked about. So there's lots of ways that people can tap into all of that, totally free of charge. The website's theppcmachine.co.uk. The Facebook group is you can get to that just by going to mortgagebrokermarketing.co.uk. And then obviously if they want to go further than that, then I would have a conversation with them and look at actually what they're doing now, and first of all work out whether I think I can help them. I mean, in most cases I can, but I'm at the stage of my business life where I'm very definite that I only want to take on projects where I know I can make a difference and be successful. So that's I only take on those, and the results from previous ones kind of reflect that, basically.
And playing devil's advocate for a second, there might be, there's been this conveyancing logjam like we referenced before. The market's been absolutely booming because you've got this perfect storm of the work being stuck in with the lenders and with searches and conveyancers, but then more work's coming in. So a lot of people have either been frantically growing and taking advantage of the opportunity, or, across various sectors, they've almost been shutting the doors potentially. So, going into 2021, ahead of the 31st of March, a lot of people will be saying, well, that's something that I might look at in the future. I don't need that now. Why should I consider, giving away time or money or whatever, looking to either expand what I'm already doing online or take that leap because, do you know what, I know I should probably do that, but I don't. So what would your response be in terms of why people should potentially take action now and maybe put that a bit higher up the priority list?
It's that old expression, isn't it? Make hay while the sun shines. You know, the time to focus on your marketing is actually when you're busy. Partly because, you know, when you're busy is when you've probably got a bit of spare money to invest in your marketing. If you wait until things have gone quiet, you're either not going to have any money to invest in marketing, or if you have, you're going to be frightened to use it for that because you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs with no clients coming through the door. It's about avoiding that kind of feast and famine cycle that I referenced earlier on. What I'm trying to do is help brokers create consistency, so they've always got that pipeline of people. So yeah, you might be really busy now. What you should be doing now is doing the marketing that will create the clients you'll be talking to in 6 months from now. Because as I said before, people don't these days always just want to come straight onto a website and make an inquiry. They need to be nurtured first of all. You know, I know, for example, in my own business, that next week I will talk to probably 2 or 3 mortgage brokers who are, you know, good quality inquiries who potentially want to work with me. I can't tell you yet who they will be, but I know they will be people who probably first came to my website 3 to 6 months ago and have downloaded some free resources, have joined my email list, have been getting stuff from me since then. And something that I send them in an email next week will make them think, yeah, I need to take action. I need to talk to David now. And it's the same with brokers. You should be doing stuff now to create that pipeline of people who in 3 to 6 months will get one of your emails or, you know, see one of your YouTube videos or whatever it is and think, yeah, I really must sort that remortgage, or, you know what, I am fed up with living in this house. It's time that we moved. I need to start talking to a broker. And at that point, you don't want them going off and searching on Google. You want them coming to you because they've already got to know you through the nurturing that you've been doing. So yeah, it is busy at the moment, but we know that is an artificial, you know, demand that's been created by things like the stamp duty holiday and whatever. That will end. And when it does, you want to be the broker who's already got a pipeline of people waiting to speak to them, rather than the broker who suddenly goes from being really busy to nothing overnight, because you'll be massively on the back foot then.
And where have you got anything new and exciting you're releasing, or anything you've just recently released in the business? You know, where would you like to see, you know, your business life, if you like, go in 2021?
Well, my newest thing is that membership program I mentioned just now. So this is where mortgage brokers can join my program. They pay a low monthly subscription, and they get in return for that a group coaching call with me and other brokers every fortnight, where we cover all aspects of, you know, what they're working on in their digital marketing and look at different challenges, and they get advice not just from me, obviously, but from other members of the group. And that's quite nice because obviously I can bring the digital marketing expertise to it, but other members of the group can bring the financial services expertise. So like in the call we had this week, you know, we had quite an in-depth discussion about, you know, how to market equity release and stuff like that. And I was coming at it from the point of view of, you know, this is the nuts and bolts of how you would advertise it on Google. But then other brokers were talking about the different kinds of people who need equity release and the different reasons behind it and how you tap into those to get your marketing message right. They get a whole library of online training courses. They get a support forum where they can ask questions of me and other members, and if they want one-to-one training with me, they get discounted rates on that. So I only launched that at the beginning of November. That's going really well so far. It's got far more people in it already than I was targeting. So my big push for 2021, I want to carry on working one-to-one with a small number of clients all the time, but I really want to push the membership program and basically get what I'm doing out there to a larger number of people, because I think it's useful for all mortgage brokers, but I can't work with them all one-to-one. So this is my way of scaling it, basically.
Well, thank you so much, David. I would fully endorse that, and that's it.
It's called the Predictable Pipeline Program, by the way.
And the Predictable Pipeline Program, PPC machine. You can find out a lot more about that across our social media channels and on our website, where there'll be tons of information about David and the services. That's it for this week, everyone. Thank you, David. You've been a great guest. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. And thanks for listening, everyone. So if you're listening on podcast, please hit us up with a 5-star review on Apple. Please share and spread the word about the MLC show for property professionals. Check out the products and services at themortgagebrokerclub.co.uk. And more importantly, please stay well and take care.